What's going on, YouTube? This is Wes here from psychrocklive, and I'm so glad to be back with another video. New setup today, got some new equipment, finally got myself a webcam instead of just recording videos on my phone. So, I think things are going pretty well. I also got this new chair, it's wonderful. But this is a very requested video. Everybody wants to see some rankings of some studio albums or some bands. So I'm just going to start with something simple, something I know very well. I did some of this type of thing on a live stream not too long ago. Excuse me. But I have not done it as an actual standalone video. And as you guys know, I don't keep really any or hardly any of my live streams up. Just because they get long and the quality's not always the best. So what we're going to be doing today is hopefully you guys can see all of this stuff real good. But what I'm trying to do here is simply just rank the Grateful Dead studio albums. It should be fairly straightforward. This is, like I said, all studio, so this will not include Live Dead, Skull and Roses, whatever. Just simply the studio albums. And as you see here, we have this tier that goes from S, A, B, C, D, and E. This is S being the best and E being the worst. I doubt with the Grateful Dead we're going to see anything in the E column. Maybe a D, but we'll see. And then also, it should be noted that if you have stuff like this, the leftmost one, the closest to the actual letter, is the higher the ranking. But that was just an example. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's knock some stuff out of the way. I think simply, out of all these options, I think I'm going to have to say the very best option here is probably American Beauty. I mean, it's folky, it's fantastic production, it sounds great, the lyrics are great, the music's great, it's kind of a left turn from what the Grateful Dead was doing prior to this. And I think that's a solid spot out of these albums to throw in the very best portion. And I'm going to go ahead here and say that the following album that's almost as good would probably be Terrapin Station. Fantastic medley. Well, great melody too. But some classic songs that would be staples of their live performances, such as Estimated Profit, the medley, as I stated, and then some really cool deep cuts like Samson and Delilah, and all this stuff. And not to mention Dancing in the Street, amazing cover that is going to be one of the most popular Dead live songs from the Cornell 77 tour, or album, I should say. But I'm thinking that that's a very fair start to this whole thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and say that the only other album that really falls, I don't know, this is tough though, because I think that a lot of these are A's, but they have some songs that aren't as good. But I'm going to say that the only other S tier that we have is Working Men's Dead. That really does not have much filler. It's another great folk album, and it really kind of changes the direction of the Dead as well when you have albums before it, such as, Oxymoxoa, Anthem of the Sun. It takes the Dead from that psych era to this kind of new ballady, really great songwriting, and I think that is such a turning corner for the Grateful Dead that we have to put it in the S. Now we're getting into the A's here, and a lot can go in here. I think a fantastic A is Blues for Allah. Help Slip Franks on that, a fantastic thing. You have the Blues for Allah melody, a staple of live performance, which would be The Music Never Stopped. Just loaded with good stuff on Blues for Allah. Then I'm saying directly following that is going to be From the Mars Hotel. Once again, fantastic songs. There's definitely a little bit of fluff on From the Mars Hotel being maybe, Money Money and Pride of Cucamonga, which is a great song, but is it really a staple of the Dead's history? Probably not, and that's why I say that stuff on Blues for Allah is probably a little more important than From the Mars, but that is just simply my opinion. And then I'm going to go ahead and say that Wake of the Flood as well is probably going to be in the A. This will probably wrap up the A category for me. I think these are really solid choices. I think that I think these could be very interchangeable if From the Mars Hotel didn't have Ship of Fools, but that being such a powerhouse song, as well as like U.S. Blues and stuff like that, it is hard because this has Eyes of the World, and that is a crucial song. So I see that these could be extremely interchangeable, but I'm going to go ahead and say that order just to be safe. And then I'm going to knock out the easy one here. And I do like it as an album, but I'm going to go ahead and say Built to Last, Gotta Go in the D. It's going to be the only album in the D category, but I think it's just fair to drop it there. I mean, it's their last studio effort. It has a lot of good songs, and, some people really like Brent, who was in the band at this time and was also on their other 80s albums. But I must say that this one is just not in the strength that these higher ranked albums are, and I think that's fair. So let's go ahead, let's look at the B now. And I'm thinking, out of all of these options we have left, Anthem of the Sun, very, very strong B. Awesome psychedelic record, really crazy production, and changes kind of the sound of the Dead compared to their first album, which is really just bluesy and cool. I mean, they do some jamming on their first album, and then, which is why I'm going to drop their first album. Sorry, I almost said second. I'm going to drop their first album right next to their second. I really, really love their first album, and I think it's a great one. But I think in terms of an album, there's no doubt that Anthem of the Sun is a more complete work than just kind of some songs thrown together and some blues covers and some one really long jam that would be Viola Lee Blues on their first album. So I think that's a very fair starting point. And after that, I'm going to go, and I'm going to actually say that we're going to go with In the Dark. And I say In the Dark over Shakedown Street. Shakedown is right after it. And I say In the Dark just because it is a little more of a whole album to me than Shakedown Street. Shakedown Street definitely has some songs that just never became a part of their live repertoire. But a fair amount of the ones from In the Dark did. I mean, lots of Hell in the Buckets, lots of Touch of Grays, several great West LA fadeaways, and some Black Muddy Rivers, and they're still playing these songs today, even as Dead and Company. I mean, obviously on Shakedown you have Fire on the Mountain, Shakedown Street. There's a lot of good songs too. If I Had the World to Give is an absolutely phenomenal ballad, but as an album and just a whole thing, I think In the Dark's a little stronger, and it's a little more concise. It just plays, and that's it. So that gives us these last two. I'm going to say that Go to Heaven is a C effort for the Grateful Dead. There's just some stuff on it that, I don't know. It's really good, but I feel there's a little bit of a cheesiness, even with the cover of this album. I just think there's a little bit of cheesiness with this whole thing. I mean, I love Alabama Getaway. Althea is killer. The Saint of Circumstance, Lost Sailor, all good stuff. But there's just something about this that doesn't give me quite the same Grateful Dead vibes as some of these higher albums. And that leaves us with Aoxomoxoa, which is a really, really tough call for me, because it's such a classic, great psychedelic album that features, China Cat and stuff like that, which is a huge staple of like the 70s, especially early 70s Grateful Dead, lineup. But it also has some stuff that is just forgettable. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place that right before Go to Heaven. So we're going to switch those. It's hardly a C. It's right on the line. If there was a B.5, I'd place it, but there's something about it. I do love it as an album. I think it's fantastic, but in terms of that psychedelic era of the Dead, there's no doubt that Anthem of the Sun, I just think, is a stronger album. And this is the final list I'm going to go with. I told you I was not going to use that E category because I love their music. I'm sure a lot of you might or might not. It's kind of flip-flopped in the vinyl community. But just want to reiterate this. This is just my opinion. I would love to see some other lists because someone could flip this around totally, and I'd be totally open for that. Just my opinion. But for now, this is what I think my ranking of my favorite Grateful Dead albums. I mean, this could get a lot more difficult if we start adding live stuff and whatnot, but this is just for now what I think are my favorites. So go ahead and comment what you guys like the most or what you hate. What albums do you hate by the Dead? My opinion, but I want to hear yours. I'm more excited about yours. Go ahead, hit that like button, and subscribe to me if you want to see more videos like this. Please comment stuff for me to rank. I'd love to see it. And without further ado, guys, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in. See ya.